Hello and welcome to CSR Live. Before we, start off, I would just like to, know a little about the company for our audiences, like a little brief about your role and the company's role altogether.
Sure. So I represent the organization TeamLease. We are a people supply chain organization, and we work around three E's. That's employment, employability, and the ease of doing business. And we also call it now e-workforce solution management system. Basically, the whole idea is that how do we move the people towards formal employment, and that's exactly what the employment business of ours is focused towards. How do we generate more formal employment, and how that's going to contribute to the growth of the economy? The other E that we work on is the employability. How do we prepare people, to get into the formal, the job sector, or is how do we prepare people for the labor market? Is through how do we enhance people employability? That's the whole objective. And also what we're also driving it is why it's important for people to prepare themselves for the employment, how they remain employable. That's also an essential part today, considering the way the world of work is evolving. So that's exactly what the employability business, works on. And we work on certain SaaS platforms for the e-workforce solution, where we have HR Tech, we've got Hire Tech as a solution, which are, and even Direct Tech as a platform which are available for the organization to manage their workforce and also manage their businesses. Considering what I do, I represent the employability vertical, and one of the businesses in the employability vertical is to do with apprenticeships. It's basically the objective is how do we prepare the people or the youth to become part of the formal employment or part of the labor market? How do we prepare them through on-the-job exposure? Because today, the way our education or the learning system is more skewed towards qualification rather than on the capability. And hence, on the job kind of help people to also build on their capabilities, how they build their cognitive skills, along with the academic qualification, which makes them more employable in the markets today. So that's I'm part of that business. I am representing that at this point of time. We help organizations to prepare their workforce, or I would say help them create a sustainable talent supply chain by focusing on apprenticeship and leveraging the apprenticeship and getting the ROI. And when we talk about the ROI, how you measure that is by having the real-time talent availability. How do we ensure that the people are more productive while going through a their structured form of training? And how do we also ensure the longevity or the engagement of the talent as well? Because the major challenges today that organizations face are in creating talent or finding talent. They're also facing in how do they develop talent and how do they retain talent. And I would say that apprenticeship as a tool helps them at least to cover the first part of it, how to create talent in-house. And what we also drive is how do we link the apprenticeship with the higher education? Now that's essential because we need to ensure that for the youth, apprenticeship becomes more desirable. How does apprenticeship get help them in their vertical and the horizontal mobility is through our flagship product or the program called Degree Apprenticeship. So that exactly we as an organization are focusing on.
Got it, got it. That's wonderful. So now, just coming on to my next question, Sumit, do you guys focus more on the blue collar jobs? Do you guys focus? And another part of this question is that would you say that while doing this apprentice program or while doing the whole sorting out the supply chain for the employee side, do you think you're also contributing into the skill building for youth, like people, the youth that comes from a not so privileged section and they do not have the opportunities that the others might be getting? Do you think you're also adding to the skills they have?
Absolutely, Varun, definitely. In fact, that's exactly what the agenda is, that how do we ensure employability of the youth who are not privileged? I would say that from the fact that they don't have access to big companies coming and approaching them. Now, these are the people who could be in a, let's say, a remote or a semi-urban location, and they could also be who are the school dropouts and possibly who are also from the tier two, tier three colleges where the organization would not want to do their campuses. So yes, that's exactly what we are saying, that listen, these are the people who may not be academically, inclined, or they may not be coming from the schools where an organization would typically desire to hire from. but these are the people who could be capable. So can you give them a chance to, you know, maybe perform there, or maybe that becomes an evaluation process also for them, where these people could be given a chance to, highlight and showcase their capability. See, there's always a problem that organizations are looking for people with experience. But if the organizations do not come forward and give experience to the freshers, then it really becomes a problem. So what we're saying is that, yes, how do you widen your pool from where you can fish your talent? Also, how do you are helping the youth to build the capability? And as I said earlier, that while you may be academically sound, you may be qualified, but you need not have the capabilities. And hence, an on-the-job exposure really helps an organization, the youth or the candidate to build their capabilities. How do they enhance their skill set? How do they upskill themselves to become more employable and relevant for that particular job role and for that organization? So yes, we as an organization
All right.
help the youth to build their skills and capabilities.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that, while, this interview or this interaction comes out of the platform, I hope this reaches out to more and more youth so that, they can actually avail these services of yours. Now, coming to my another question here is that do you think you guys also have a added responsibility here? Because like you guys are basically going out to the organizations and saying, please give these people also a chance, right? Now, as you spoke about ROI and as you spoke about how do you measure the performance, so how exactly do you think you handle that, responsibility area where it's your responsibility to make sure that those people are standing up to the expectation? So how does that work?
Right? See, what our job is that we help the organization realize the advantage of using apprenticeship. See, many of the organizations don't even understand the current apprenticeship system because it's highly regulated and very fragmented as well. Now, why it's fragmented? Because there are different regulatory bodies which manage the apprenticeship system. I mean, just to give you a broader perspective, a broader outlook, there's apprenticeship which is executed by Ministry of Skills, which is primarily for the undergraduates, and then you have the Ministry of Education, which takes care of the apprenticeship for the graduates and above, right? So I think as a system which is little complex, and organizations are not able to understand the system. Also, we make them realize that, listen, it's not just a compliance need, because as per the Act, any organization which is appointing more than 40 people, they are mandated to appoint apprenticeship. So we're saying don't do it just because it is a compliance need. We make them realize that if they are able to, engage in the apprenticeship system, how they are able to create a talent supply chain, how they are able to create the human capital for their organization, because primarily the concerns and the challenges which the hiring or the hiring managers have are primarily related to the real-time talent availability, related to the attrition, and also the high talent cost. So it cannot always be buying talent. It has to be also that you have to focus on building the talent. So that's what we help the organization realize the value of investing or engaging in the apprenticeship system. Likewise, I think we also kind of educate the youth or the supply side is that why they should be doing apprenticeship. And I think we have a full-fledged case study to say that, when an apprentice, like after getting absorbed. Okay, so let me give an example. Like we've done about 6 lakh apprentices in about 8 years time frame. We have mobilized youth that much. 75% of people have completed their apprenticeship training. 98% of them have got jobs in the formal sector. 37% of them got jobs with the same organization where they underwent their apprenticeship training. They earn about 40% wage premium over the stipends that they were getting. So, for example, if they were getting 10,000 as a stipend, they start getting 14,000 as a salary. Plus, they also get the employment benefits like a provident fund and a medical benefit kind of a thing. So that's the kind of benefit that they get, because they are more experienced. Sorry, they are more now, hands-on experienced people. They are far more sought after as compared to just a plain fresher. And obviously, they tend to gain much faster, or I would say much more, and their careers kind of grow much faster as compared to just a regular graduate or a school pass out. So I think we need to make the people realize that what's in for them, what's the ROI, both for a student or a candidate, as well as for an employer, that what's in for them if they engage with a friendship.
All right. And I think, if I'm not wrong, like our country right now is a youth booming nation. And of course, this is majorly contributing to the GDP or the national income of our country as well, because the more the youth gets employed, and as we know, like because of having a large population, we have a lot of people that are not really that skilled, or like do not have those kind of skills that are required in the new era of the corporate world. So this program, I think, will be helping a lot of people in need. So now coming, going to our next question. So I believe you guys also work with the government. The company also works with the government. Do you guys collaborate with the government as well, the ministries? how how,
That's right.
how
We do
does that
collaborate.
go? How does that
See,
go?
so our collaboration with the ministry is primarily that we become the voice of the industry because we work with more than about 1,000 employers, from the apprenticeship point of view, about more than 2,500 employees from the staffing employment perspective, right? So we understand what kind of the challenges that the employers face today in terms of the talent, in terms of the skill demand that's there, not just for today, and even what is anticipated in times to come. So we collaborate or we work along with the government primarily to ensure that how do we make the entire system more simplified, more enabling. So that's where our involvement with the government has been.
All right. So, so just I want to know a little. I want to broaden my perspective with this. How does it go when you are working with the government over a project? Do you think there are intricacies that there are different kind of work environment when you're working with the government? You have to like work with them, or like according to they would have some way of working. Corporates have some other way of working. How does that balance
See,
work?
okay, sure. So I'll tell you what. I think when we work with the corporates, the idea primarily is to definitely advocate from the business point of view that why they should be doing apprenticeship, from what's the ROI, as I mentioned to you, right? When we work with the government, it's more to do with the advocacy from the policy front. What is as a institution, let's say, as a regulator, how do they need to simplify the system for the scaling up of apprenticeship and how it's going to impact country? So when we say that, what's in for the country if they were to simplify and scale up the apprenticeship, one is definitely we have more skilled youth. How do they cater to the industry, which currently is reeling under the skill crisis, right? We also look at how does apprenticeship contribute to the socio-economic growth? Because we're saying that, as you rightly pointed out, that if you have people in the formal employment, they tend to earn minimum wages that kind of improve their purchasing power, and that drives the consumption, which is good for the economy. So, and also, how do we improve the social status of the general of the youth? So how do we improve the livelihood and the social status, which directly impacts the economic growth? But at the same time, when we talk about the degree apprenticeship, it is also, I would say, a blended form of learning. And how do we also ensure to improve the gross enrollment ratio of the country? So I think that's in for a country at a broader level. But I think our engagement with largely is on the policy advocacy for the simplification and enabling of the ecosystem that can drive the scalability of apprenticeship.
Correct, correct. That's wonderful. So, now that we are on the platform for CSR Live, we have to talk about the CSR aspect of it, right? So, how does, just firstly, just a larger umbrella question, how does exactly CSR pan into this for you guys, for the organizations you are collaborating with, and how does this all fall under the new mandate given by the government for the CSR activities in India?
Sure. So I tell you what, that today, how do how does it impact or how does it come under the ambit of social responsibility? So the Schedule 7 it very clearly indicates that any amount that is spent on the education, livelihood enhancement, employability enhancement, skill development contributes for or it gets considered under the CSR. Now, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has also given a direct guidelines that any spend which is incremental of 2.5%, intake of apprenticeship get considered for the CSR. Now, why 2.5%? Because the Apprenticeship Act says that any organization can appoint a minimum of 2.5%, which becomes mandatory and can go up to 15%. So anything which is beyond 2.5% is more like, you know, uh, it's more on the willingness of the organization. They are not obligated, but 2.5% definitely.
It's
It
a
is, it
mandate.
is, it is mandate. So that's the reason why it's directed from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs that any spend which is made on the engagement of apprenticeship, which is beyond 2.5%, will qualify for CSR. So under this particular regulation and rule is where the apprenticeship gets covered under CSR.
All right. So, Sumit, according to you, like, what's your perspective? How is right now CSR being treated in our country, and how do you think, what's the impact that CSR is having on our nation as well, like on the bigger picture?
See, I think I think corporates are conscious about the social responsibility towards, the society, that they belong to and how they are actually enabling the surroundings. Definitely, healthcare is one area where there's a lot of spend which is being, considered, obviously with the COVID thing that's gone up. But education is the second largest spend, is the area where there's a spend on, from the CSR side. And I've seen many organizations whether it's to do with your apprenticeship, but they do a lot for the community upliftment in the area of education, where they kind of sponsor the infrastructure. It could be digital infrastructure, how they're sponsoring the tuition fees, how they're coming up with more community colleges and schools for the upliftment of the society. So I think, and that's not just with the A-listers. Even we realize that even tier 2, tier 3 companies, some form or the other, as long as they are, I mean, everybody has to do it, but they are definitely, are kind of conscious about spending. Well, their report suggests that, not the 100% of the budget that they're supposed to be doing get consumed. But I think that's where, organization like us comes into picture, that how do we educate the organization where they can contribute toward social responsibility.
You guys can even, better the implementation of the CSR for the organizations. That's where you guys
Absolutely.
can also
Absolutely.
chime in.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
before wrapping things up here, I also want to know, like, the apprenticeship program, like what TeamLease does. Do you think that these are also in the direction of achieving certain SDGs for the country as well? So, like, there can be
Absolutely.
action and there can be employability and stuff like that. How does that work? How does that work?
Absolutely. If you look at the SDG 3 and 4 are definitely considered there, where we're saying that how do we provide equitable or equal opportunities for the education. And apprenticeship is definitely, when we say apprenticeship with the degree linkage, definitely I think takes care of that, because it's kind of helping the youth. I mean, basically how we make the education more accessible, affordable, and quality, because we're emphasizing even on the employability aspect. So definitely your SDG 3 is taken care of. But even if you were to look at your, you know, uh, how does it helps you to achieve the gainful employment? I think these are the two sustainable goals. Development goals are addressed through this particular, apprenticeship as an agenda.
And just, lastly, Smith, I would want to know which sector do you think has the most, what do you say, like you guys collaborate with a lot of organizations, I'm sure. Like, but which particular sector organizations do you think are in the most need or are most welcoming of an idea like this, where they give chances to youth who don't really have the same opportunities like others?
So, see, if you look at historically, it's always been a manufacturing sector that was always inclined towards apprenticeship, because I think the system was meant to be for the industrial training and all, right? But over last, I would say half a decade, we've seen a huge lot of traction building it from the services sector, and specifically in the retail, BFSI, and very recent logistics as well. But very recently, we've seen that even IT and ITES is now kind of prepared to, take up apprenticeship as well. Largely from the fact that there's a awareness that has built up, and also the system is now becoming more simplified as well. So I think there's definitely an awareness, and there's also keen interest where they want to get started and explore. And the people who have already experimented with it are now looking for scaling the numbers as well. So I would say today, uh, it would be since the trends are that the employment is more in the services side, we see that in time now as well, and even in times to come, how the services will be the larger, I would say as a sector in engaging the apprentice.
Got it. Got it. So, Sumit, thank you so much, firstly, for doing this with us. And lastly, for whoever's watching, and I'm sure a lot of people will, and for whoever needs it and is interested, how do the youth of like how does the youth of this country reach TeamLease if they want to be part of this apprenticeship program? What exactly is the process for that? Do they just go on the website and go for it?
See, we have a platform called apprentices.in, so they can definitely register themselves there, and we can help them get the apprenticeship opportunity.
Absolutely. So that's amazing. And thank you so much, Sumit, for joining us here. I can see you're in a wonderful environment right now. The greenery behind you is
Beautiful weather, yeah.
it's looking very beautiful. And thank you so much for taking out the time to do this. We shall do this again very soon. We'll come back to you, knowing how exactly is it going and how exactly are you guys moving forward. So again, thank you so much. If you have any
Thank you,
last
Varun.
thoughts, if you have any parting thoughts for the audiences, please.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for this opportunity. And I hope through this particular session that we just kind of had, there's more awareness that gets spread out amongst the employers that how they can actually, improve and contribute towards the livelihood and employability of the youth.
Absolutely. I hope this reaches to more and more corporates and the youth of our country. Okay. Signing off now. Thank you so much, Sumit, for doing this with us. I hope to see you again.